Hey everyone, this is Mike, and today I wanted to revisit Dancer. As I was leveling all of my jobs to level 90 at the start of Endwalker, Dancer was one of my winners of the expansion. While I might not have been a fan of all of the changes that happened to the job, it felt good to play. The only gripe that I had with the job back then was the change to the procs. The fact that AoE and single target flourish skills now share procs. Took away from some of the variety that the job had, and I quite like the melee aspect of Dancer as well, but now that I've played around with it a little bit, I don't really mind it anymore, as we now also get more saber dances. So instead of pressing flourish GCDs, we're now pressing saber dances instead. It still lowers the amount of off-global cooldowns we get to use, but at least Fan Dance 4 kind of alleviates that a little bit. Fan Dance 4 is also guaranteed, whereas the other procs were still kind of random if you would get a fourfold feather or not. The only thing that was then left feeling a bit meh about the flourish aspect of Dancer was the flourish ability itself, and this is what got adjusted in patch 6.1. So before, when you were about to press that flourish button, you wanted to make sure that you didn't have any flourish buffs left, because otherwise they would go to waste. Even more so now, because you only get 2 flourish buffs instead of the 4 that we used to get in Shadowbringers. But because it's RNG, you couldn't always control it. The only thing that you could really do is save enough Esprit gauge for it, so that you can use a Saber Dance and then use your Flourish ability. But then again, Esprit is also semi-random, and you also don't want to overcap that gauge either, just so that you can use Flourish on cooldown, so it was a bit unfortunate. However, in 6.1, they've made it so that the Flourish buffs that you get from your GCDs are different buffs from the ones that you get from the Flourish ability, and this pretty much solves everything really. You no longer have to worry about having to save Esprit, just in case you need to use Saber Dance as a filler GCD, because you can just use a normal GCD now instead. And if it gives you a Flourish proc, then it doesn't matter, because you'll get different buffs from your Flourish ability, and then you get to use your Flourish GCDs twice in a row, if you have both buffs active, that is. So it was some great quality of life. Now, there were 2 other additions to Endwalker Dancer, Talana and Starfall Dance, and I liked both of them for different reasons. Starfall Dance is just an extra GCD to press during your burst window. Didn't feel too strongly about this one, but it was just a nice extra button to press because Dancer doesn't have that many different GCDs. Talana, on the other hand, was nice because you could now press both of global cooldowns before going into your burst, both Devilment and Flourish. However, I think I liked Talana more than Starfall Dance simply because we got it sooner. Talana we get at 82 and Starfall we get at 90, but they kind of both solved the same problem that I had, if you could call it that, with Dancer's Burst, which was that I wanted to press both Flourish and Devilment before pressing my other buttons. But Talana kind of introduces a new problem into the rotation, so the only gripe that I currently have with Dancer then are our dances. Unlike most other GCDs that have a cooldown attached to them, the dances don't scale with skill speed, and understandably so, because they have raid buffs attached to them, so I can understand why that's the case. So instead of your GCDs adjusting to your skill speed, you need to adjust your skill speed to your dancing GCD cooldown, which, if we're looking at it from a best in slot standpoint, doesn't really matter, but it can feel a bit awkward when you're in the process of gearing up to getting that correct GCD, because your dances might line up weirdly with your GCD until you get the correct one. And this is where Talana is kind of a problem, as it's a fast GCD and it offsets your GCD cooldown, I guess you could call it, with that of your dances, even at best in slot. So I feel like the only way that they could fix this is by making Talana a normal GCD. That way, it's just like any other GCD and it won't drift your dances away from your GCD cooldown. I do know that this would change the feeling of the skill, like right now it adds some extra speed into the burst window, whereas if they make it a normal 2.5 GCD, then it's just going to feel like any other one. But to me it's a worthwhile trade-off if this fixes the dance drifting that we currently have got going on. There might be some other ways to fix it, but I honestly don't play Dancer enough myself to come up with anything else. But I do feel like if they fix this dance drifting, then Dancer is going to feel really good to play, because it already does. It's just that your dances can sometimes feel a bit awkward when you have to either delay them by a GCD or clip your GCD to use them on cooldown. But if they fix this, then it's going to feel great to play, because so far I've been really enjoying Endwalker Dancer, and even after getting back into playing Machinist these last few weeks, I'm having a really hard time choosing between Dancer and Machinist, because both are so fun to play. I guess that whenever I play by myself, I can just go Machinist, because then I don't have to care about having a good dance partner. I'll just bring the damage myself, even though it could use a bit of a buff. But when I'm playing with some friends, like I was doing yesterday, I guess I can just go Dancer and boost their DPS while I look pretty dancing next to the boss. Because even with the dance cooldown being a bit awkward at times, it still feels really good to play, and I love playing it. It's just that I feel like they could still improve on the gameplay by making this tiny adjustment, and when they do, Dancer is not going to feel good anymore, it is going to feel great. So those are kind of my follow-up thoughts on our current Dancer. I've been really enjoying the job so far, but hoping that they would still make this one adjustment. What do you think about our current Dancer? Do you like the changes that happened going into Endwalker, and how have you been liking the job? Let me know down below, and with that I want to thank you for watching, I want to thank my Patreons for their support, and I'll see you in the next one.